All right, let's get right into it. We spend so much of our lives trying to get smarter, right? We're constantly collecting knowledge, listening to podcasts, reading books, becoming these walking encyclopedias. But what if our entire approach to knowledge is, well, broken? This explainer is all about a huge idea: how to take all that information locked away in our heads and turn it from a private collection into a public good, something that actually makes life better for everyone around us.
So it all kicks off with this story about a dinner party. You're sitting across from this guy, let's call him the professor, and he is brilliant. I mean, this guy has read every book you can imagine and thousands more you've never even heard of. But as the night goes on, you start to get this sinking feeling. He's constantly interrupting the waiter, totally oblivious to the vibe at the table, just sucking all the air out of the room with these long, rambling monologues nobody asked for. And you realize, for all that genius, the man is a brick. And here's where it gets really interesting. You compare him to the waiter. Now, the waiter probably can't tell you about 14th century gondolas, but you know what he can do? He notices your water glass is getting low and refills it without missing a beat. He's anticipating what you need. So the professor, he's got massive storage, like a 100-terabyte hard drive. The waiter, on the other hand, has incredible throughput, a super fast connection. One guy optimized for knowing things, the other optimized for creating a good experience. And that right there is the battle we're talking about: storage versus throughput. So what's the official diagnosis for this kind of brilliant but useless behavior? It's simple. We've accidentally built ourselves into a headless server. If you're not in tech, a headless server is basically a super powerful computer with no screen, no keyboard, no mouse. There's no easy way for a person to actually use it. It's all this amazing processing power just humming away, completely cut off from the end user. Sound familiar? This whole problem comes from what we can call the Library of Alexandria Fallacy. It's this deep-seated belief that just knowing things is valuable in itself. So we treat facts like little gold bars, and we hoard them inside our skulls. It's why we listen to podcasts at double speed, just cramming in more and more information, but we never stop to actually do anything with it. We're all about the input, and we completely forget about the output. And this leads us to a pretty brutal truth, and it applies to everything from software to human beings. The user does not care about your backend. Seriously, your team, your family, your clients, they don't care how complicated your internal thought process is or how many books you've read. All they care about is the interface, the experience. What's it like to interact with you? Okay, so if the system's broken, what's the fix? What's our goal here? We have to shift from being a collector of raw materials to being a producer of something actually valuable. And you know what? The absolute perfect metaphor for this whole transformation is the humble bee. This comes from the 13th century Persian poet Saadi, and it's an incredible engineering metaphor. He wasn't just being poetic here. He was basically describing a failed system. A scholar who just knows a bunch of stuff but never applies it is like a bee that flies around collecting nectar but never actually makes any honey. It's just consuming resources. The bee is the perfect model for the process we need to follow. First, there's the input. You take in all that raw data, the nectar from books, podcasts, you name it. But that's just step one. The crucial part is the processing, using our minds, our critical thinking, like enzymes to break it down and synthesize it. And the final output has to be honey, real wisdom, actual solutions, something valuable for other people. The problem is, most of us are just nectar hoarders. And that brings Saadi's challenge from centuries ago right to our doorstep today. You've consumed the library. You are fat with data. You've listened to all the podcasts. You've read all the books. So where's the honey? What value are you actually producing with all that stuff you've collected? All right, so how do we start producing that honey? It's time to build a user interface for our knowledge. This is where we get practical. We have to shift from just engineering our own back end to thinking about the front-end experience for others. It's all about bridging that gap between all the complexity in our heads and the user's need for simple, elegant solutions. And the perfect model for this is a Persian cultural concept called Mehman-navazi. You could translate it as guest worship. And the core idea is that the host is mandated to absorb all the complexity, all the stress of cooking, cleaning, planning. That's the back end, so that the guest experiences nothing but effortless simplicity and delight, the front end. If the guest even sees you breaking a sweat, you've basically failed as a host. This gives us this fantastic comparison for leadership styles. You've got the intellectual potluck leader. This is the person who just dumps a pile of raw data and unprocessed thoughts on the table and expects everyone else to do the hard work of making sense of it. And then you have the Persian host.
This leader does the hard cognitive work behind the scenes and serves their team a finished, digestible meal. They absorb the complexities so others don't have to. I mean, think about your communication like a software API. When someone makes a request for your wisdom, what kind of response do they get? A bad response is high latency. It's that 40-minute unstructured rant that just overwhelms them with information. But a good response, that's low latency. It's structured and it's actually useful. It's a clean, simple answer that respects their time and energy. So let's say we've done all this. We've upgraded our internal system. We've designed this beautiful new API for our brain. How do we actually know if it's working? Well, there's only one way to find out. You have to ask the user. They are the ultimate judge, and their experience is the only metric that really matters. You know, there's this classic joke in the software world. When a developer's code fails in the real world, their first excuse is always, well, it works on my machine. We laugh, but we do this exact same thing in leadership all the time. The boss says, I was perfectly clear. It worked in their head. But if the team, the actual production environment, is confused and lost, then your code is broken. Period. This is the absolute core rule for getting feedback. Your intentions are irrelevant. Your internal logic doesn't matter one bit. If the other person feels confused or small or overwhelmed, your communication code has failed. The user's experience is the one and only valid test. So how do you debug this in real time? You have to learn to read the user error messages they're sending you. You see furrowed brows? That's a syntax error. They didn't understand what you just said. Someone looking down at their shoes? That's a connection timeout. Complete silence? That's a 500 internal server error, a total crash. These aren't just moods. They are literal bug reports telling you that your message failed to deliver and you need to fix your code. Okay, now let's get really serious about being reliable. We need to formalize this whole commitment to others. And we do that by creating a personal service level agreement, or an SLA. This is what takes us from being unpredictable and best effort to being a consistent, high availability human being that others can depend on. See, most of us operate on a best effort basis. It sounds like, yeah, I'll try to be a good leader, but hey, if I'm stressed or having a bad day, all bets are off. An SLA-driven approach is totally different. It's a guarantee. It says, I promise you a baseline level of service and consistency no matter what. You become reliable infrastructure that people can build on, not some flaky prototype they have to tiptoe around. So what would this personal promise look like? Well, it rests on 4 key pillars. 1, a latency cap. This means I will not ghost you, I will respond. 2, uptime. My mood won't be a roller coaster. You can count on my emotional stability. 3, data integrity. I will never, ever give you a corrupted packet, which is a lie. And 4, throughput. This one's huge. I will never leave you with less energy than you came to me with. That is what it means to be a high availability human. So we've built this incredible system. We're reliable, we're making honey, we're serving others. But why? What's the ultimate point of all this work? It's about leaving the isolated tower of our own minds and finally entering the marketplace of humanity. In ancient Persia, the Tower of Silence was this isolated place where the dead were left. So many intellectuals turn their minds into these towers, just hoarding knowledge until it rots away. The opposite of that is the bazaar. It's chaotic, it's messy, but it is bursting with life. And in the bazaar, knowledge isn't some static thing you own. It's a living, breathing transaction, constantly being traded, tested, and improved. And that brings us to the ultimate purpose of all this. The point of knowledge isn't to be the sun, trying to generate your own brilliant light to dazzle everyone. No, the purpose is to be the mirror. A mirror creates nothing. It simply reflects light, redirecting it with perfect clarity to illuminate a path for someone else who's stuck in the dark. Look, you have enough data. We all do. It's time to stop buying more hard drives for your brain and start laying down some fiber optic cable to other people. So here's the final question. What is the one trench of human connection you can start digging today? Who out there needs you to be their mirror?